Well, hello there. You're watching All 24 News World News program. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. France seeks to turn the page with Algeria after months of tensions as the first direct flight to Abuja takes off. Meanwhile, Sonatrach and Baker Hughes double down on energy cooperation. Also in our news, in Western Sahara, Sahrawi President Ghali reaffirms the people's right to self-determination and urges the UN to empower MINURSO. Meanwhile, Rabat continues its crackdown and blocks progress toward a fair vote. Coming up as well, in Gaza, Zionist airstrikes intensify with deadly fire bells across Rafah and central Gaza. Authorities warn of a forthcoming humanitarian catastrophe, and Palestinian factions call for a global general strike this Monday. And in Ukraine, explosions rock Kiev once again. Zelensky blames Russia for killing children, while Moscow accuses Kiev of breaching the energy targeting truce. Do stick around with us, the details are coming up. Welcome back. It's great to have you with us tonight. Let's get to the details of our news. We kickstart with a key diplomatic visit in Algiers. Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune welcomed France's top diplomat on Sunday, signaling a possible reset in bilateral ties. The French Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs, Jean-Noël Barrot, met with President Abdelmajid Tebboune and top Algerian officials in a bid to ease recent tensions. The high-level talks included Algeria's Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf and key presidential sides. In gesture aimed at mending strained ties, Barrot said France hopes to turn the page and build a new chapter grounded in calm, I'm saying, equality and mutual trust.
I came to Algeria with a message from the President of the French Republic. France aims to move past the current tensions and rebuild a partnership with Algeria based on equality, calm and mutual trust. We also seek to resume cooperation in a way that serves our shared interests and produces tangible, effective results for both our citizens.
Barrot announced that all cooperation channels between Algeria and France are officially back in motion, starting that day, meaning Sunday. He said the move puts into action the principles laid out by Presidents Tebboune and Macron during their phone call this Monday.
قد حرصت على تلبية هذه الدعوة في أقصر الآجال.
I was eager to respond to this invitation as quickly as possible, specifically within less than a week following the phone call between Presidents Macron and Tebboune and their joint statement. In recent months, we have witnessed a period of unprecedented tensions, which do not serve the interests of either the Algerian or French people. Yes, we have differences and we cannot deny them, but the human, historical and cultural ties that bind us, particularly the many Franco-Algerian families who live on both sides of the Mediterranean, should guide us in resuming dialogue and rebuilding cooperation. Our institutional relations must rise to the level of the human connections that unite our two countries.
On the same occasion, and after meeting with the President of the Republic, French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot emphasized the need to revive dialogue and restore cooperation, following what he described as an unprecedented period of tension in Algerian-French relations.
With President Tebboune and Minister Attaf, we had an open and frank discussion about all the issues that have been on our minds in recent months. Our goal was to bring to life the principles laid out by the two presidents during their phone call on March 31st and to revive the momentum and ambition set out in the 2022 Algiers Declaration. We agreed to move forward seriously, calmly and effectively by reactivating all cooperation mechanisms across every sector, while getting back on track and, as President Tebboune put it, and indeed the curtain is rising, first and foremost on our security cooperation and on launching a strategic dialogue about the Sahel.
Similarly, France's top diplomat revealed that both countries have agreed to restart judicial and immigration cooperation. He also confirmed President Abdelmajid Tebboun's green light for a meeting between Algerian councils in France and local French officials. Let's take a listen.
مع الرئيس تبون والوزير عطاف.
With President Tebboune and Minister Attaf, we had an open and frank discussion about all the issues that have been on our minds in recent months. Our goal was to bring to life the principles laid out by the two presidents during their phone call on March 31st and to revive the momentum and ambition set out in the 2022 Algiers Declaration. We agreed to move forward seriously, calmly and effectively by reactivating all cooperation mechanisms across every sector, while getting back on track and, as President Tebboune put it, and indeed the curtain is rising, first and foremost on our security cooperation and on launching a strategic dialogue about the Sahel.
On a related note, Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf welcomed his French counterpart Jean-Noël Barrot in Algiers on Sunday for high-level talks at the ministry's headquarters. The visit comes at Attaf's invitation just days after a phone call between Presidents Tebboune and Macron aimed at easing recent tensions. Still with Algeria-related news, the Algerian airline company Air Algérie has officially launched a new direct route linking Algiers with Abuja, the capital of Nigeria. The inaugural flight took off Sunday from Houari Boumediene International Airport and will operate weekly, extending service to Douala, Cameroon. Return flights from Abuja to Algiers are set for every Friday.
خطوط الجوية الجزائرية تفتح هذا الخط.
Air Algerie is opening this route from Algiers to Abuja in implementation of directives of the President of the Republic. Naturally, there is an agreement between the two countries, cooperation agreement in the field of aviation, which has also been updated with a services agreement. This is what has allowed us today to realize this historical achievement.
Well, it seems that Air Algérie is indeed setting its sights on turning Algiers into a regional hub connecting Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. Speaking on the sidelines of the inaugural Abuja flight, the airline's commercial director, Hasnia Kawa, revealed in that there is a surge in passenger traffic across its African network. She also outlined plans to ramp up service with 40 weekly flights to African destinations by 2026.
هذه الرحلة ليست مجرد رحلة جوية.
This journey is not just an air trip. It represents our shared responsibility to strengthen ties between our two countries across all sectors, tourism, trade and economy. These direct flights will greatly enrich the traveler's experience by providing a well-connected network of routes between Algiers, Abuja and our international network. The launch of the Algiers-Abuja route perfectly embodies our ambition to connect the African continent with itself and with the rest of the world.
قارة إفريقيا مع نفسها ومع بقية العالم.
In economy-related news, Algeria's Sonatrach Group and U.S. energy giant Baker Hughes have reaffirmed their commitment to staying on schedule for the second and third phases of the strategic Hasser Mill Reservoir Enhancement Project. The announcement followed a high-level field visit by Sonatrach CEO Rashid Hashishi and Baker Hughes CEO Lorenzo Simonelli, who reviewed progress on efforts to counter the natural depletion of Algeria's most vital gas reservoir in the south.
We studied the development plan of this company in order to expand beyond Algeria and give it an international dimension. It has started operating on a regional level with some projects in Tunisia and Egypt and will also be active in Africa. The plan also includes developing the company to carry out complete maintenance operations here in Algeria, as well as manufacturing spare parts and even producing turbines locally.
Hughes' commitment not only in Algeria but also the expansion from Algeria to the world and the investment plans that we have to take the Algesco joint venture forward into greater capability.
Similarly, the Algerian energy giant Sonatrach has revealed ongoing talks with US-based Baker Hughes aimed at strengthening their cooperation and unlocking new opportunities in the energy equipment manufacturing sector. In a statement, Sonatrach confirmed that both sides are exploring ways to revive ABAC, a joint venture specializing in the production, installation, and maintenance of industrial equipment as well as spare parts across the hydrocarbon value chain.
This joint venture will be given the utmost importance in order to develop it and achieve the desired goals in accordance with the investment program that will be defined. We believe we are on the right track, God willing.
Moving on to other regional developments, and just days ahead of his scheduled briefing to the UN Security Council, the UN Secretary General's personal envoy for Western Sahara, Staffan de Mistura, wrapped up his visit to the Sahrawi refugee camps. During a high-level meeting on Saturday evening, Sahrawi President Brahim Ghali reaffirmed his people's unwavering commitment to their inalienable right to self-determination and independence. Ghali expressed strong support for the efforts led by both the United Nations and the African Union to bring a just end to the decades-long decolonization process in Western Sahara.
This was an opportunity to reaffirm the position of the Sahrawi side, which has been reiterated on numerous occasions, particularly emphasizing the Sahrawi people's unwavering commitment to their inalienable right to self-determination and independence. The discussions centered on the current situation and future prospects of United Nations-led peace efforts in Western Sahara and the importance of collaborating with both the United Nations and the African Union to find a just and lasting solution to the Western Sahara issue, which, as you are aware, remains on the United Nations agenda as a matter of decolonization.
Sahrawi President Brahim Ghali also called on the United Nations to take concrete steps toward fulfilling the promise of self-determination for the Sahrawi people. In his latest talks with the UN Special Envoy Staffan de Mistura, Ghali emphasized the need for the UN and African Union to move forward with a joint settlement plan based on self-determination referendum. Ghali underscored that such a step would enable the Sahrawi people to exercise their inalienable right to independence, a goal the Polisario Front remains steadfast in pursuing. On a related note, Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf reiterated Algeria's strong support for UN efforts to restart the political settlement process in Western Sahara. Meeting with UN envoy Staffan de Mistura on Sunday, Mr. Attaf emphasized the need for direct and conditional negotiations between Morocco and the Polisario Front in line with UN resolutions on decolonization. It's also worth noting that de Mistura is in the region ahead of an April 14th briefing to the UN Security Council on the issue after meeting with key stakeholders including Morocco, the Polisario Front, and Mauritania. Moving on to the latest developments, but this time in Gaza, at least 16 Palestinians, including 9 children, were killed today when Zionist occupation forces targeted them in Gaza City. The victims were reportedly playing with Zionist drones struck when Zionist drones struck Nakil Street in the Tufah neighborhood. The Palestinian Civil Defense confirmed the recovery of 11 bodies, most of them children, along with several wounded. In a separate attack, 2 more bodies, including a woman and 2 children, were found in the Shuja'iyya neighborhood. Additionally, 2 more lives were claimed after a house was bombed in a Zaytun neighborhood. Similarly, at least 16 Palestinians, mostly children, were killed in Zionist drone and artillery strikes in Gaza. 8 died in Khan Yunis, including 3 children, as occupation forces shelled homes and tents for displaced people. In Rafah, tanks and airstrikes destroyed buildings, while in the central Gaza Strip, 9 more were killed in bombings of displaced persons' tents. Additional casualties were reported in Jabalia and other areas, with ongoing heavy bombardment.
The strike targeted an apartment on the 4th floor in Al Amal neighborhood without any prior warning. They waited until people were asleep to cause the highest number of killed and injured people. Mahdi Abu Sbayah, his wife and his 2 children were injured. May God heal them during surgery.
Meanwhile, the Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza reported that 26 martyrs and 113 wounded were brought to hospitals following the recent shelling. This brings the death toll from the renewed aggression, on March 18th to 1,335, with 3,200 wounded. The ongoing conflict has now claimed 50,695 lives and left 115,338 wounded. For its part, the government media office in Gaza confirmed that the Zionist occupation has designated Rafah as a closed military operation zone. In a statement, it noted the systematic destruction of infrastructure, vital facilities, and residential homes, leaving the city uninhabitable.
The occupation has completely destroyed more than 90% of the homes in Rafah Governorate. There is over 20,000 buildings containing more than 50,000 housing units. In addition, 22 out of 24 water wells have been destroyed, depriving tens of thousands of families of access to safe drinking water.
The Palestinian Islamic Resistance Movement, Hamas, has called on the international community to join in a general strike as well as in events and angry marches on Monday to protest the ongoing aggression on Gaza. In a statement shared via its Telegram channel, the movement stressed that the occupation would not succeed in achieving its goals through war and crime, and emphasized that the only option is to rise up against the occupation and ignite resistance across all points of contact in the occupied West Bank. And finally, in this file, in Khan Yunis, Gaza, Zionist airstrikes killed 15 people, including 5 women and 5 children, leaving homes in ruins. Families mourn amid the devastation as the ongoing military campaign since October 2023 has claimed over 50,000 lives. Let's get more details with Yassine Rikti now.
Here in Khan Yunis, Gaza, another deadly night. Another Palestinian neighborhood reduced to rubble. 15 people, including 5 women and 5 children, were killed after Zionist airstrikes struck a house and a tent without warning. Amid the ruins, families gathered for funeral prayers, their sobs piercing the heavy silence.
The bombing occurred around 11 or 11:30 p.m. with no warning. Missiles and tons of explosives rained down on a family of children and women. A 4-story house was destroyed, collapsing over the heads of its inhabitants.
The strike is part of the occupation's ongoing military campaign, which resumed last month following the breakdown of fragile ceasefire with Hamas. As bombs fall, the blockade tightens, cutting off essential aid, fuel and food.
My daughter was innocent. She wasn't involved in anything. She loved journalism and adored it. She loved the good in others and worked closely with local institutions. She's always sought peace and never interfered in anything.
Since March 18th, the Palestinian Ministry of Health says 1,335 people have been killed and 3,297 injured. Since the beginning of this war in October 2023, the death toll in Gaza has surpassed 50,000, with over 115,000 wounded.
Trump gave Netanyahu another green light on top of the previous one. He's in a rush to keep bombing. There are things more important than killing, more important than destroying Gaza. Economic and political issues on the global stage. Trump wants to put an end to the Gaza issue, and he's pushing for it. It's evident this morning as Israeli bombs continue to fall. Martyrs are everywhere, and destruction is widespread.
In Gaza, hope is buried beneath debris. Families mourn in the shadows of relentless violence, their cries met with silence, their suffering far from over.
And in other topical developments, but still in the Middle East, 2 Lebanese nationals were killed and 2 others were injured in a Zionist airstrike on Sunday in the Tyre district, southern Lebanon. The Lebanese National News Agency reported that Zionist drones targeted a car and a land reclamation excavator on the road to Nakura between the villages of Sabkain and Sha'itiyah. The strike resulted in the deaths of 2 Lebanese individuals and left 2 Syrian workers injured. And elsewhere in Yemen, U.S. airstrikes on Sada killed 2 and wounded 4, according to local reports. The strikes hit Hafsain and Kamaran Island. Meanwhile, the Houthi group claimed to have targeted the U.S. aircraft carrier Harry S. Truman with a ballistic missile, engaging in prolonged clashes with American warships. The Houthis pledged to continue their defense operations until the Gaza siege is lifted.
This American aggression targeted one of the commercial solar energy stores. We tell the American aggression that this will not deter us, not affect our determination, for we are moving forward in supporting our brothers in Gaza. Whatever the price we have to pay, we will sacrifice with our blood, our people, and ourselves until God grants us victory.
And in the Ukraine war file, Moscow and Kiev remain locked in a fierce war, highlighted by Russian ballistic missile airstrikes on the Ukrainian capital, and both sides claiming to have downed dozens of hostile drones within 24 hours. More details with Zahra Frajani now.
More than 3 years into the war, the fighting in Ukraine shows no signs of stopping. Despite repeated diplomatic pushes to end the bloodshed, both sides continue trading blows, and it's civilians who are paying the highest price. In Kiev, Ukrainian official reports waves of missile and drone attacks, leaving behind a trail of destruction, injuries and death. In his latest appearance, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky accused Russia on Saturday of killing children with missile strikes.
Staying silent about the fact that is Russia killing children with ballistic missiles is wrong and dangerous. It only emboldens Moscow to continue the war and keep ignoring diplomacy. Weakness has never ended the war. That's why I'm thankful to every country whose representatives have spoken out, leaders, foreign ministers, embassies.
Ukraine continues to denounce what it calls targeted attacks on civilians, while Russia is pushing back, accusing Kiev of striking energy infrastructure deep inside Russian territory, despite what was meant to be a ceasefire.
Ukrainian armed forces have carried out 14 attacks on Russian energy infrastructure since Friday morning, April 4th. The Kiev regime, contrary to all statements and commitments made by Zelensky to the American side to cease strikes on Russian energy facilities for 30 days, has increased the number of unilateral attacks using UAVs and artillery munition on the energy infrastructure of Russian regions many times over.
The two sides had previously agreed to ensure safe commercial shipping in the Black Sea and halt military offensives, but that fragile truce now appears to be unraveling. With blame flying in both directions, casualties mounting and tensions escalating, hopes for a diplomatic breakthrough are fading.
All right, it's time to catch up on more stories making headlines around the globe in the News in Brief. Let's follow.
Hundreds of thousands rallied in Rabat, Morocco, demanding an end to the Gaza genocide and the suspension of normalization with the Zionist entity. The protests featured political, human rights and civil society groups marching to parliament, chanting against violence in Gaza and the government's ties with Zionists.
The Sudanese army launched their strikes on rapid support forces in Al Ubaid and pursued Hamiti remnants in western Omdurman. They also destroyed an ammo warehouse and vehicles in southwest Omdurman while continuing artillery strikes on rapid support forces positions in Al Ubaid.
Opponents of President Donald Trump's economic policies organized protests across the United States. Thousands gathered in Washington and other cities, with over 1,200 demonstrations expected. The protests were sparked by Trump's economic policies and the actions of Elon Musk, who led a government efficiency review that resulted in the elimination of over 200,000 jobs out of 2.3 million in federal government.
The European Union will respond collectively to US tariffs starting Monday. A meeting in Luxembourg will discuss additional tariffs on US goods, with the EU aiming to negotiate the removal of the tariffs.
And with this, we wrap up our news bulletin for tonight. To catch up on any part you missed of our news bulletin or for more details, you can always visit our social media platforms. From me and the rest of the team, thank you for tuning in. And until next time, have a good one.